If you want more than the average leveling kit for your 2020 or newer Silverado 2500, this Cognito Motorsports 3-inch Elite Leveling Kit with King 2.5 Reservoir Shocks should be on your short list. Now, this kit won't just be for the Silverado owner wanting a level of up to 3 inches of lift in the front, but who wants the increase in height and top-notch dampening performance with the included King adjustable shocks for tough towing situations, off-roading, and just abusive driving in general that the Silverado may see. Now, it's also a more inclusive kit with components like these upper control arms and pitman and idler arms that correct the suspension geometry. So in addition to the steep gain in capability that this kit offers, it also makes for a long-lasting enjoyment of this kit, even if you're tough on it. Now, there are multiple benefits included with this kit, with the increase in ground clearance to clear larger obstacles on and off-road, increasing the space in the wheel well for better articulation and wheel travel, as well as space for up to a 35-inch tire, and of course, a more leveled appearance for your truck. Now, the shocks are one of the biggest features here, with the huge build and reservoirs, which keep the shock cooler for longer, especially if you are really working the shock, and that's a result of increased fluid capacity. And on each of the shocks, front and rear, there is a range compression adjuster. Those adjusters offer 20 precise clicks of compression dampening adjustment, altering your ride to really however you want it to feel, whether it's a stiffer feel on the highway or a softer feel off-road. In addition to the shocks, the control arms, the pitman, and idler arms also have a wear issue when lifting the truck as far as the stock components are concerned, so including these components eliminates any weird suspension angles for a more controlled feel, improved drivability, and improved tire wear. Now, starting with what actually lifts the truck, the torsion keys. Now, these are made of a forged steel construction. They have a bit of weight to them, but these allow a small range of adjustability when they're bolted up to that 3-inch level. Now, the supporting mods to this lift are tough as well. The boxed sheet metal upper control arms with a gloss black finish, maintenance-free pressed-in ball joints, and very tough bushings. Now, thanks to the bigger ball joint stud and eliminating any metal on metal design within this ball joint, Cognito says the lifespan is upwards of 80K miles with no grease, so you can kind of just set these and forget them. Now, the pitman and idler arm support kit is also made of a steel construction with durable Heim joints, and the corrected angles allow for proper pitman arm and idler arm support. Now, last but not least, the star of the show here is the adjustable 2.5 front and rear shocks with a huge 2.5-inch aluminum body and full aluminum design to resist rust completely, a huge line for optimal fluid travel, and an adjuster, again, for firming up or softening your ride on the fly. Now, the kit also includes absolutely everything that you need in order to bolt this up to your truck for a no questions asked install. Now, this is a high quality leveling kit and has a price point to match it at about $4,700. Now, when setting this kit up side by side with others in the category, this includes some of the biggest shocks in the category for a huge bumping capability, obviously the reservoir and adjuster there, and Cognito lifts are some of the only options with the pitman and idler arm support, which is a big addition to this kit to maintain proper angles and comfortable and long-lasting drivability. Now, if you know you want a quality lift that will allow supporting components on your truck to last, keep your tires in good shape, and offer you some premium performance on the dirt and on the straight, and of course, look sick in the wheel wells, this is a great one to invest in. Install here is a 3 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, so I'd recommend that you either take this to a trusted shop to get this installed or have a good amount of experience in order to tackle this yourself. Lifting your truck on keys is not the easiest install, so I do recommend some experience. Now, if you have the right tools, right experience, and setup to take about 6 hours, all said and done, to get this in place. Now, I do highly recommend an alignment after this is installed for proper wear and performance after the fact. Now, at this point, I'm going to hand it over to one of our installers, and they're going to show you a detailed breakdown on how this bolts up to the truck, whether you're just curious about the install or you're tackling it yourself. So that's going to wrap it up for me. Let's go ahead and get into it.
For this install, you will need various impacts, various size pry bars, a breaker bar, a hammer, a tape measure, a torsion key tool, a paint pen, 8 10, 13, 15, 18, 21, 24 deep and shallow, and 27 and 26 millimeter sockets, a 3/8 inch adapter if necessary, various length extensions, 19 millimeter swivel socket, a 1/2 inch swivel adapter, a 1/2 inch ratchet, 17 and 18 millimeter ratcheting wrenches, 21, 22, and 30 millimeter wrenches, various size adjustable wrenches, a cutting tool, and also not shown here is a jack and jack stands and a couple pole jacks, and you will need an alignment. What's up guys, today we're going to be doing a lift kit on our Silverado, so let's get started. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to need to do is remove our factory torsion keys. So these are held in by some retainers and adjuster bolts, and we're going to need a tool to remove those. We'll pull that out in a second. The first thing you want to do is measure and mark where this adjuster bolt is sitting, because you want that to come back to the factory settings after we replace them. So we're going to take a double measurement essentially. We're going to grab our tape measure, measure the length of the bolt sticking out. We're also going to mark the threads with a paint pen just as a little bit of security. So factory spec is 1.75 inches. You want to write that down, and also you can mark your threads like so. And you want to do that for both keys. Our driver's side is at 1.5 inches. So our next step is going to be relieving the tension on our adjuster so we can get that out so that we can bring our key down fully and relieve the tension on our torsion bar itself. So there's a few different styles of torsion bar tools. Ours is kind of a U-bolt style. So what you want to do, no matter what, is wherever the top dowel is for your adjuster tool, there is a dowel locator at the top of your torsion bar support. You want to line that up, and we're going to get our tension bolt into our recessed portion of our key. You'll see all this in a minute. So we'll slide this over. So now we've got our U-bolt and our dowel locator in on the top of our torsion support. We're going to get our bottom section in. Again, this all depends on the style of torsion tool you have available to you. Admittedly, the C-clamp styles are easier to use. Now that we have this in, we're going to run our nuts in, as well as our adjuster screw. Just want it to touch that recess. And we're going to tighten these down just a bit. Then we can add our tension. So now we're going to run these in flush. Ours use a 24 millimeter socket. Again, yours may be different. Now we're going to take our 26 mil socket on an impact and run this bolt up to push up on our key so we can remove our adjuster screw. Now once this is loose, you know the tension is off of it. You can remove it. Sometimes you can get it out by hand, sometimes you can't. Now we use our 21 mil socket to remove this bolt. Once that bolt is out, you can slide your adjuster nut out. Then we'll come back and relieve the tension. Then we can undo our torsion tool. So Now, as you can see, we do not have tension on our torsion bar anymore. So we're gonna need to push this forward out of the retainer section in the rear so we can get our key out. Now, sometimes this will go by hand, sometimes you need to use persuasion. We'll see how this one goes. We're gonna slide our torsion bar forward. Now, as it comes forward, your key is going to release. So you wanna make sure to have a hand there. Now we have our key out. Once you have this side out, you can do the same thing for the other side. So now we're gonna install our new keys. Now you wanna reference the position that your factory key came out. If you kept your torsion bar in the same spot, it's pretty easy to line this back up. So what we'll do, bring this up in a position. You wanna be mindful of your fingers. Once you get that through enough, it's pretty much gonna sit. You want to make sure this is all the way back seated where it was. Now we can reinstall our retainer and adjuster screw. Now we'll get our tool reassembled. Easier said than done sometimes. So now we've got our tool reassembled, we've got our tension bolt lined up in the recess. Get this back to snug. Now that we have everything lined back up, we're going to tighten down our bolt and apply tension. I'm going to grab our factory adjuster. Might need to add more tension. Get this back in. This might take a few tries, it's okay. Once you've got that back in and centered, reinstall our adjuster screw. We'll run that back in again with our 21mm socket. You don't want to use a power tool with this. You don't want to chance messing up your threads. Once you've got this in a good bit, we can now release the tension because our adjuster is going to hold in place, and we can adjust our screw back to the OEM measurement. As you can see, that's holding the tension. Get this out of the way. Then you can fully remove your tool. So now we're going to get our adjuster screw back to its original measurement. We need to go in a bit. You'll feel it once it hits the key, it's going to have a lot more tension. And we're back to 1 3/4 inches. Now once you have this all set up, you can do the same thing for the other side. All right, so now we can begin removing our rear factory shocks. We've got a pole jack underneath our differential to help support it. You're gonna need a 21mm socket and an impact. and a 21 millimeter wrench. And for the top mounting bolt, you will need an extension, same tool set. So now we'll remove our lower mounting bolt, and with our 21 mil wrench, 21 mil socket. Now for our top bolt, we don't need our wrench, just our socket and extension. You want to support your shock. Remove your bolt. Remove your shock. Now once you have this side off, you can repeat the same process for the other side. Alright guys, now that we have our factory shocks off, we can begin installing our new setup. Now one thing I'd like to point out about this new setup is that these have an external reservoir and they are adjustable damping. So it's very simple. You have an adjuster knob up top on your reservoir. If you want a softer ride, meaning less damping, you want to turn down, you just turn counterclockwise. If you want more damping, just turn it to the right and you'll feel the click, so you can adjust by that. So we'll go soft just for now, but again, you can adjust this to your liking. And we'll get this in place. You want to make sure your reservoir is in a spot where it's not going to hit the frame, and we're going to reuse our factory hardware. So we'll get our top 21 millimeter bolt loosely in place, come down, get our bottom one set, and then we'll come back and tighten everything down. Now we'll grab our 21 mil socket and extension, 21 mil wrench. We'll tighten the upper one down as well. Now once you have this side installed, you can do the same thing for the other side. Alright, so now we're up front, we're going to remove our factory front shocks. Now I do have a floor jack underneath the lower knuckle, because once we remove the lower bolt, it's going to want to drop a little bit. It's not going to do anything drastic, but this is going to help ease the tension on that lower mounting bolt so we can get it out easier. So our lower bolt is a 21 millimeter bolt with a 21 millimeter nut. So we've got our 21 mil socket and 21 mil wrench to remove the lower bolt. And we're going to use our 21 millimeter wrench to get these top two nuts off. So we'll start with our lower mounting bolt first. So we'll get in and get this lower bolt off. Run this bolt out. Right, now you may need to move your jack up a little bit to get the tension off of the lower mounting bolt, or we can also loosen our top nuts, whichever you prefer. Both are going to do the same thing. Just want to pull this bolt fully out. Now we can get our two upper mounting nuts off, again with our 21 mil wrench. Now you do have a little harness locator on this stud. Just need to push that up and out of the way. You can remove this fender liner. It's not necessary. You can access these nuts without it. You want to support your shock while removing your final nut. You can just pull that right out. And once you have this side off, you can repeat the same process for the other side. All right, so now that we have our front shocks out, the next thing we're going to need to do is remove our factory upper control arm. So we've got the vehicle lowered down a little bit. I've got a floor jack underneath the lower control arm. That's just going to help support the weight on our knuckle. Now we still have our tie rod and our sway bar on, and our torsion bar is obviously on, so it's not going to go too far. We just want to keep it from doing anything too wild. And then what we're going to do is remove this bracket so we can have access to our front control arm bolt and get it out. So to do that, we're going to use our 13 mil socket, pull the bolt out and just move that a little bit out of the way. Hold down a little bit on that. You don't want to yank on it. Just get it sitting a little bit lower, and that'll be just fine. Now we're going to put a bungee cord around the upper part of our knuckle. This is just going to help keep it in place. You don't want to pinch any lines or anything while doing this. That'll be good right there. Next, we're going to loosen and remove the nuts for our upper control arm mounting bolts. Now we've got a 24mm socket on our breaker bar. One thing to note, these are very, very highly torqued from the factory, so they are going to be a bit of a struggle to get off. So we'll pull back a little bit on our fender liner. Get this on. Once we've got this broke loose, we'll do the same thing for the front. Now that we have both nuts loosed, we're gonna grab our ratchet and fully remove those nuts. Now you can do the same thing for your front nut. Now we can grab our 18mm ratchet wrench and remove our upper ball joint mounting nut. Once you have that off, pull your upper control arm out of your knuckle. Now we can remove our upper two cam bolts for our upper control arm and remove our control arm itself. And once you have this side off, you can do the same thing for the other side. Alrighty guys, so now we're about ready to install our new upper control arms. And one thing I want to point out is when doing this at home, you are going to have to trim down your service perch for your forward control arm mount in order to reach full droop on your suspension. Now for demonstration purposes, we're not going to do this. It will still fit and install, and we'll show you how that works. And we'll also explain to you how you're supposed to trim this out. So what you're going to do is grab a tape measure. You're going to come to this bolt hole that we already removed our bracket from. You want to measure up a ½ inch from that, draw a line straight across from where these brackets are, and then you want to cut there and then down and remove this entire top section of your service perch. You can use a Sawzall or a cutting wheel, whatever you have available to you to cut metal with in an easy fashion. Then after you have it cut, you want to clean it up and cover it with some rust protection like paint or some bed liner or something like that. So just something to cover up the paint with. So now we're going to install our new upper control arm, and we're going to reuse our factory cam bolts. So we'll get this in and get those back in place. Now once we have our cam bolts in, we'll reinstall loosely our 24mm nuts. Okay. Now we'll install our ball joint. Now we'll get our supplied castle nut and flat washer on. As soon as you have a few threads on, we'll come in with our 22mm wrench and tighten that down. So now we'll tighten this down. Now we'll install our cotter pin. Make sure that goes all the way through. You just want to make sure that comes back over the threads, like so. Now we'll snug our 24mm nuts for our cam bolts back down. Again, with our 24mm socket on our ratchet. We'll do the same thing for our forward nut. So now it's time to install our new shocks. Now these also have an external reservoir. So what we're going to need to do is feed the top and the reservoir through up over the upper control arm. We'll get our upper two bolts and our reservoir bracket in place. Then we'll come down and do the bottom. So now we want to get our reservoir up in the general area where it needs to be. Sure it doesn't get caught on anything. Set that here for a minute. Now you may need to turn your upper shock mounting bolt plate. So you can grab a 19mm wrench, hook it onto the bolt head, and that'll turn this entire assembly. Just gonna make it easier to line it up. Get that through. And once you're part way through, adjust it to where it'll go up flush, like so. Now what we're going to do is install our reservoir bracket onto these studs. We'll get our flat washers and lock nuts on. Now you won't be able to see this once I get the bracket in place. So it's going to line up with these two mounting points right on there, and we'll get our washers and nuts on the backside. You can move this if you want to. We'll get it started without it. Once we have our first one loosely on, we'll do the same thing for our forward nut. So now that we have our upper nuts loosely in place, we're going to reinstall our factory lower shock mounting bolt. Now I do have a small pry bar on the back side of the lower bracket for this new shock. It is going to be a little bit tough even if at its softest setting to get this into place. So just take your time, have some patience. We'll get this lined up and get our bolt through. Now we can reinstall our factory 21mm nut. Then we'll come back and tighten our lower and upper mounts down. So now we'll tighten down our lower bolt, again with our 21mm socket and wrench. Now we're going to use a 17mm ratchet wrench to tighten down our two nuts. And we'll do the same thing for our forward nut. So now we can install our provided worm gear clamps to our bracket for a reservoir. You have two openings, one at the front and rear of your bracket. We're going to slide the open end of our clamp through, get it coming back around. We'll do that for both of them. You want to do that and leave them open while we get our reservoir in place. Now we'll get our clamp through. We'll do the same thing for this one. And we'll get our reservoir up into place. Just like so. And we can line our clamps up. We're going to tighten those down with our 8mm socket. You can also use a flathead screwdriver. We'll do the same thing for this one. Now we'll get our brake line bracket back in place and reinstall our 13mm bolt. And we'll tighten that down with our 13mm socket. And once you have this side on, you can repeat the same process for the other side. Now, we're gonna have to go underneath the front of the truck to add in some additional supports, but before we do that, we're gonna remove our passenger side outer tie rod from the knuckle. This is gonna help prevent throwing things off as much as we can. You will still need an alignment for this install. However, taking this out is gonna prevent any further toe adjustments. So we're gonna grab our 21mm socket on our impact and pop that nut off first. And we're gonna give our knuckle a few taps with our hammer to unseat our tie rod. Be very careful if you're doing it this way. You don't wanna hit your brake or your backing plate. Once that drops down, you can fully undo the tie rod end. Okay. All right, so now we're underneath the front of the vehicle and we're gonna remove our shroud and skid plate. We've got our 15mm socket on our impact, remove all the hardware and get these out of the way. Then you have two more bolts in the rear for your skid plate. You want to support that. Now we need to undo our sway bar mounts from our frame. So we're going to grab our 10mm socket and extension, pop these two bolts off, then you can do the same thing for the other side. Now we can remove our sway bar mounts from our frame. So we've got our 10mm socket and extension on our impact. We'll remove the first two, then we'll remove the second two and drop our sway bar down. And we'll do the same thing for the other side and this will come right down. Now we'll gently drop our sway bar down, let that hang. So now we're gonna remove the nuts for our pitman arms to our center link. So we've got a 24mm socket. I'm gonna pop these off. So now we're going to remove the nut from our steering box to our pitman arm. This is a 43mm nut. Now, most of us don't have 43mm wrenches available, so you can use a large adjustable. Get that on. Now, as you can see, really don't have enough room to get this nut out. Maybe you might get lucky. We're gonna leave that right there for now because we'll need to unbolt this either way. And we're gonna get the idler arm out as well. Now we're gonna use a 30mm wrench to get this nut loose. All right, so now we've got a pole jack underneath our steering box that's going to help support it because we're going to need to remove the three 24mm bolts holding this in place. So now on the front driver's side of your frame rail, you're going to find the three 24mm bolts. So we're going to use our 24mm socket to get those off. And we'll do the same thing for the other two. So now we're going to use our pole jack to raise our steering box a bit. We'll be able to get that nut and washer out. This is just going to give us more room to work. So we're going to put this up a little bit. Then we'll come over here and we'll remove the two bolts for our idler arm assembly. So now to get our two 18mm bolts out, we're going to use our 18mm swivel socket and the extension on our impact. Now you might have to use a breaker bar to get these loose. And once you've got them moving, there's also nuts on the backside, so we'll need to capture those. We're going to use a deep 24mm socket. Capture these nuts. Now we've got our first nut and bolt out, we'll get our second one out. Now we're going to use a pry bar, work this out. Just want to be careful with it. Might have to run this nut back up. Alright guys, so now that we have our idler and pitman arm separated from our frame, we don't actually need to pull the pitman arms off. We're going to add in our supports. So the smaller one is going to go on the idler arm. So we're going to slide that through from the back side, and this side is going to go onto our center link arm. So we'll slide this over our cross member and get this up in a position. And we'll lift up. Okay, now we'll get our nut back on while it's right here. You may need to maneuver this. Now we're not going to tighten that just yet, that's just going to hold everything in place. Now we'll go to the back side and get our other half on. Now you want to get this lined up. And we're going to take our lock washer and spacer, set that onto our arm. And we're going to lift up. Get that set onto there. And we can install our nut on the back side of our pivot arm. Now we're going to install our supplied shank nut onto our stud. This may take a little bit of working around. You'll kind of feel it drop into place. So now that we have our set nut in, we're going to snug this side down. That's going to pull our arm in. Now you can use an adjustable or a 24mm wrench for this. We're going to have that come out about flush, and we'll run the other nut out. This is going to jam this up, and both nuts will be tightened. We're going to use our 26mm socket to fully tighten our shank nut. And once we have this side on, we're going to do the same thing for the pitman arm. Alright, so now we're going to reinstall our steering box bolts. We've got both of our supports loosely in place. Get our 24mm bolts back in. Now you want to get all three of these started before you tighten any of them down. Make sure you're at the right angle. You may have to adjust these around a bit. And we'll tighten these back down with our 24mm socket. Now we'll get our pivot arm assembly back onto its mount. So you may need to push your steering rack a bit. Get that to line up. Get your bolts back in place. It may be a little stubborn to go through the other side. So we'll get both in. That'll line those up. Then we'll get the nuts back on the back side and tighten these down. Now we'll get our 24 mil socket back on our nut and our 18 mil swivel. Now we'll tighten our 30 millimeter nut back down for our pivot arm. And you can't really get a torque wrench in here, so you want to make sure to get this as tight as possible without stripping this nut. Now we'll tighten down our pitman arm nut. Now we'll swing our sway bar back into position. Reinstall our 10 millimeter bolts. And once you get your first side started, you want to run these in a little bit just to help you hold the other side in place. Don't fully tighten them just yet. And we'll get the other side to the same point and we'll come back and tighten them down. Now we'll tighten these all down with our 10 mil socket and extension. Now we can reinstall our skid plate and splash guard. We'll start with our rear two bolts. We'll get these loosely in place. And we'll grab our splash guard so we can reinstall our front section all at once. So we've got our splash guard. We'll get the rear holes lined up with our skid plate. That way we can get our bolts started at the same time. And we'll get our front two started. Now that we have all of them in, we'll come back with our 15 mil socket and tighten everything down. We're gonna start with our middle two. And you can do your front. Now we'll get our passenger tie rod back into our knuckle. May need to pivot this around a little bit. Get that to come back through. Reinstall our 21 millimeter nut, and we'll come back and tighten that down. We'll tighten our nut down. Alrighty folks, that about wraps up our review and install of our Cognito Motorsports 3-inch Elite Leveling Kit with King 2.5 Reservoir Shocks for your 20 to current Silverado 2500 and 3500 HD. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything Silverado, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.